Let's maul in the Central Committee. Let's cringe in the Central Committee. Let's bog in the Central Committee right now.
Representative Ilhan Omar is receiving backlash from both sides of the aisle for recent comments in which she grouped the U.S. and Israel with terrorist groups. Let's throw her tweet up on the screen. You can see it right there. The Congresswoman said, "We must have the same level of accountability and justice for all victims of crimes against humanity. We have seen unthinkable atrocities committed by the U.S., Hamas, Israel, Afghanistan, and the Taliban." Ryan, I think that was misstated. I wonder if she would actually take it back. She has since defended it, but I wonder if she would say that maybe differently if she could. What do you think? Do you think she actually intended to have that sort of equivalence? And would you defend the equivalence if you were her?
Yes, of course. I mean, the right on this wants to have it both ways. You know, they want to go around when they can trigger the left and say all lives matter. But then when it comes to victims of U.S. imperialism, of whom there are probably tens of millions in the second half of the 20th century, all of a sudden lives are different. Some lives matter. If you were taken by an enemy, if you're a life that was taken by an enemy of the United States, if you fell at the hands of communists or terrorists, then your life mattered. If you are an Indonesian member of the Communist Party there and you're one of the 500,000 to 1 million people annihilated in that genocide, that U.S.-backed genocide, then your life doesn't matter. I don't understand. Maybe you can help explain it to me how it is anti-Semitic to talk about American history in an accurate way.
Well, I don't think this comment is particularly anti-Semitic.
Well, they're coming after her. Like
I'm not.
So first of all, chat, the first thing I want to show you here, before we get too far into the debate, is Ryan Grimm, accomplished journalist who has broken dozens of important stories, Washington bureau chief of The Intercept, intelligent man, author of books, including a book I highly recommend called We've Got People. I think the definitive history of the modern left in America, from Jesse Jackson to AOC. Fucking incredible. If you want to know what happened to the left in the 70s and 80s, all the way to today, Ryan Grimm will tell you about the left in America. It's the definitive history, and everyone who wants to do a lot of leftist activism in the future should probably read it, so you can see where we've gone wrong in the past, what the failures were, what the successes were. Highly recommend that book. He's up against just a total WH Omega lol, the culture editor for The Federalist, a hack, right-wing, funded by oligarchs, garbage publication. Just despicable. Nothing to her name, no accomplishments, never did a fucking thing. And they're on the same fucking level. Libs complain about Grimm's reporting on Tara Reid. Any weight to that criticism or no? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that was accurate. He reported the story. And as far as I understand, there's no real way to prove or disprove the allegations made by Tara Reid. Either you believe her or you don't. Joe Biden would probably not be convicted in a court of law, but you either believe her or you don't. And she was there. She worked in that office. She left unceremoniously. Who knows what the reason is? The records, as far as I know, haven't been fully unsealed by Biden. So there are personnel records that are missing or sealed. So it has not been, as far as I know, definitively debunked or not. And And quite frankly, there is enough supporting evidence that I think it's at least credible to investigate. Joe Biden is the president, and it's not convenient for the Democrats to do that, so they don't care. But the story is completely valid. So, anyway, she's a fucking idiot. And of course, being an ignorant jackass, she's going to be elevated to him. Why? This is called conservative affirmative action. Conservative affirmative action. You want to get a job in media? Be mediocre, white, and conservative, and you can fucking get boosted like crazy.
According to John Bresnahan with Punchbowl,
even Democrats.
Jewish Democrats in the House, he reported, are putting together or working on a statement calling her anti-Semitic for making this argument.
I mean, I think you're all about the Benjamin's tweet is still the clearest example that there may be anti-Semitism lurking in her worldview. But I would also say, in this case, when you include the United States with Israel in the equivalence between the Taliban and Hamas, I think it's clearly not targeted in the way that an anti.
That's not what she said. Like, these fucking scum are pathetic. We need to get the Ilhan Omar statements. We watched it yesterday and it was super, super fucking terrible quality. So it's annoying to watch again. But that's not what she fucking said.
A charge of anti-Semitism would say, I do think it's extremely offensive to the establishment. I agree in this case because I think the Taliban and Hamas are forces for evil, and where you say the United States has also been a force of evil, that there are victims of United States imperialism, I think what that does is wash over people that the United States has saved through its actions. There is two sides to that, right? There are, I can admit, absolutely, of course, there are victims.
But try to say the same thing and say, well, Hamas builds hospitals and schools, and the
Taliban?
And the Taliban eradicated a lot of corruption around Afghanistan, and the Soviet Union raised living standards throughout. So if we're going to do this thing, well, okay, yes, it's true that U.S. imperialism killed tens of millions of people, but they also did good things. Then why does that only apply to the U.S. and not to all of these other countries, the evil empire? Because
the level of good, I think, that the United States has had around the world is wildly out. The balance there between good and bad is nowhere where it is compared to the Taliban.
You would have a hard time making that case in most countries where the U.S. intervened.
Right. No, I understand that completely, but that doesn't change my viewpoint, and I don't think it changes the facts.
By the way, the Taliban was supported by the United States of America. The Mujahideen directly transitioned into the Taliban. The Taliban was supported and hatched by the Pakistani intelligence service, the ISI, supported by U.S. money. This is a fact. I don't know what to. I mean, I guess we'll just pull up Wikipedia because this is the level of education we need, right? Here. After the Soviet Union intervened and occupied Afghanistan in 1979, Islamic Mujahideen fighters engaged in war against those Soviet forces. Pakistan's president, Mohammad Zia al-Haq, feared that the Soviets were planning on also invading Balochistan, Pakistan. So he sent Akhtar Abdur Rahman to Saudi Arabia to garner support for the Afghan resistance against Soviet occupation forces. A while later, the U.S. CIA and Saudi Arabian General Intelligence Directorate funneled funding and equipment through the Pakistani Inter-Service Intelligence Agency, ISI, to the Afghan Mujahideen. Man, it's funny. You go down the Taliban Wikipedia page, and after the intro, the first fucking thing in background is CI motherfucking A. That's amazing. It's almost like every single evil group actually started with American CIA efforts. Wow. How could you possibly create an equivalence between the Taliban and America? How about this? America helped create the Taliban with Saudi Arabia, you fucking idiot. Ronald Reagan meeting with Afghan Mujahideen fighters in the Oval Office in 1983. Oh no! About 90,000 Afghans, including Muhammad Omar, were trained by Pakistan's ISI during the 1980s. British professor Carol Hildenbrand concluded that the Taliban have arisen from U.S., Saudi, Pakistan-supported Mujahideen. The West helped the Taliban to fight the Soviet takeover of Afghanistan. After the fall of the Soviet-backed regime of Mohammad Najibullah in 1992, many Afghan political parties in April agreed on a peace and power sharing agreement, the Peshawar Accord, which created the Islamic State of Afghanistan and appointed an interim government for a transitional period. But that Islamic State and its government were paralyzed right from the start due to rivaling groups contending for total power over Kabul and Afghanistan. Hekmatar's Hebzad-e-Islami Gubahabin party, I'm sorry, Chad, I don't speak Arabic, refused to recognize the interim government, and in April,
shaking hands with bin Laden?
April infiltrated Kabul to take power for himself, thus starting this civil war. In May, Hekmatar started attacks against government forces in Kabul. He received operational, financial, and military support from Pakistan's ISI. The U.S. government covertly provided violent school books filled with militant Islamic teachings and jihad and images of weapons and soldiers in an effort to inculcate in children anti-Soviet insurgency and hate for foreigners. The Taliban used the American textbooks and scratched out human faces in keeping with strict fundamentalist interpretation. The United States Agency for International Development gave millions of dollars to the University of Nebraska at Omaha in the 1980s to develop and publish the textbooks in local languages. Anyway, let's go back. The Taliban is so terrible! Wait a minute, we did that.
That the balance of good and bad worldwide over the course of the United States' existence, it's silly to whitewash the bad. It's absolutely silly to whitewash bad. There has been plenty of it. But on the other side, on the balance, I think the United States has done incredible good around the world, continues to do incredible good around the world in a way that could never and should never be compared with the Taliban or Hamas.
I would agree in this sense that when it comes to the amount of pain and suffering that the U.S. has produced around the world, the Taliban, Hamas, and Israel are pikers compared to...
So here's the thing. This is true, but Americans are not taught this. So conservatives love it. When you go out there and go, America has committed horrible atrocities, conservatives are like, yeah. They laugh, and they want to have the conversation because they know Americans are not taught this, because they control the textbooks, right? So Americans are not taught critical thinking, and they're not taught history, but they are taught to love their country. And so, like, if somebody started attacking your mother, you don't sit back and go, did my mother deserve that? Did my mother attack that person? You just rush to the defense of the person you love. You're biased. And that is exactly what conservatives are counting on. They're counting on you, and centrists as well. They're counting on you not knowing fucking history, not knowing what the U.S. has done. And for me, the gall of picking the Taliban as our enemy is so comical, I don't even know what to say. We created the Taliban. In cooperation with Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, We created these Islamic fundamentalism that is violent. These violent extremist Islamic groups did not exist until the United States of America intentionally created them for the purpose of fighting the Soviet Union in the Cold War. That is what we did. That is the facts. So she's laughing because A, she's either incredibly stupid. So this comes down to a saying that I have. And whenever I say it in front of conservatives, they get triggered. Conservatives are either outright evil in the sense that they're sociopaths who don't give other human beings equal moral consideration, or two, profoundly ignorant. Meaning they're just drooling dipshits who say, I love America. America's apple pie. America's freedom. America beat the Nazis. America, we freed the slaves. Just kind of like brain dead droolers. And it's one of the two. Sometimes there's overlap, and they're both. But most of the time, it's one or two. Conservatism. One of the biggest important aspects of the conservative movement is concealing to the conservative rank and file what conservatism actually believes and supports. That is the number one project of most conservatives who are in the professional media class. Conceal to conservative voters and conservatives and Republicans what they actually believe and support. Turn up Tina, fuck the GOP. Oh, yeah. How dare you? I'm a sociopath and ignorant. Osama bin Laden's compound itself was located just half a mile from Pakistan's premier military training academy, Kakul Military Academy, in Abbottabad. And that's where the ISI, which is the Pakistan Intelligence Service, is located.
What the U.S. has been able to accomplish just in, say, Argentina, or just in Indonesia, or just in Vietnam, or just in Congo, or just you could throw a dart anywhere at the global map, and you can probably find, at some point throughout the 20th century, the U.S. intervening to undermine some type of social democratic effort and backing the most vicious right-wing elements. And the irony of them calling this anti-Semitism when the U.S. very consciously and explicitly out of World War II allied itself with former Nazis, helped Nazis escape justice, was complicit in what was called the rat line, with getting Nazis out of Germany and into these death squads that were run by the United States and deployed in an anti-communist fashion against the Soviet Union and against leftist elements in South America.
But who ended the Holocaust? I mean, what country?
The Soviet Union, actually.
Okay, but
I mean, the Soviet Union did that.
No,
we walked in after the Russians had suffered 20+ million casualties and marched into Germany.
Sure, but without the United States' intervention, a heck of a lot more people would have died in that atrocity.
Yes, and I'm glad the Soviet Union and the United States allied.
Do you see the goalpost move? The goalpost could move beyond the speed of light there. I think we've actually seen and witnessed faster than light travel. Star Trek may be possible from what we just saw. Warp drive may be possible from what we just saw. It went from who ended the Holocaust? And the answer is, I think it's about 95% of the camps were liberated by the Soviet Union. Not a single death camp was liberated by the United States, I don't think. Every single death camp was liberated by the Soviets, right? Like, I don't think there was a single... Like, we had work camps that were liberated by the 101st, but I don't think it was a death camp. I think it was a work camp, which I'm not trying to say that the work camps were good. Just like the actual hardcore, extermination camps were stopped by the Soviet Union. Like 95%. Yeah, see, it was Dachau was not an extermination camp. The extermination camps were all in Poland. Auschwitz, Treblinka. I think these were all Soviet liberated, right? Someone will have to go and check for me. I don't want to say that the US didn't liberate a single death camp without actually checking. Liberation by. Here we go. It's right there. It's right there in the fucking... It's right there. Liberated by Soviet Union, 27 January. All right, let's go through all of them. Liberated by, closed in 1943. So this was never liberated. They just shut it down. That's not good. This one was also shut down. Liberated by Red Army. You're not gonna find an exception probably. Shut down October 1943. The camp ceased operations after a prisoner revolt, which took place on 14 October 1943. The prisoners had to escape by climbing over barbed wire fences and running through a minefield under heavy machine gun fire. About 300 prisoners made it out of the camp, of which 58 are known to have survived the war. After the revolt, the Nazis demolished the camp and planted it over with pine trees. People didn't even know about that one. Liberated by Soviet Union. So, like, when you ask, every death camp was either shut down on its own or liberated by the Soviet Union. And why were they shut down? Because the Red Army was coming. It's irrelevant, Mike. The bottom line is that these right-wingers live in a bubble of ignorance, and notice she didn't refute anything Ryan said. She only asked a straw man's question to who ended the Holocaust. And the answer was, listen, I'm not trying to say the United States was not important. I happen to believe that the United States' entry in World War II was good, brought about the end of the war, and it was the right thing to do. Now, did the U.S. commit atrocities in World War II? Yes, it did. The unnecessary nuclear bombings of Japan, for example. And the United States definitely contributed significantly to the war effort in various ways. In Europe, we probably shouldered at least 15 to 20% of the burden. Soviets, 80%. And I may even be overestimating the United States. So when somebody says who beat Nazi Germany, the answer is the Soviet Union beat Nazi Germany. You could say the Allies beat Nazi Germany. The partisans helped, and resistance groups, and the United States, and the British, and the French, sure, they helped. But the vast majority of fighting and the most significant defeats of the Nazis happened in the Eastern Front. So that is the reality. Sean did a great 2-hour video laying out the reason nuking Japan was for racist and bigoted. Oh, the Sean... I have to say that Sean video on the nuclear bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was one of the most persuasive and complete historical accounts I've ever seen on the nuclear bombing. I think it's actually like a real good piece of historical work. Recommended highly. But it's 2 hours, so we're not watching that shit. The Lend-Lease program, much equipment and oil was provided to the Red Army and helped them early on. Of course, aid was helpful. This is not real. This is not real. This is fake. This is fake.
To beat Nazi Germany. But the Nazi Germany, the Nazis themselves then allied with the United States to go after the Soviet Union and to go after communist and social democratic elements in South America. That's an actual part of the history.
Right, but again, there's lives being saved in that process, a lot of lives being saved in that process, and a lot of Americans putting their lives on the line and dying to save those lives.
Sure, but many fewer than Soviet lives died to take on the Nazis.
But that doesn't change the fact that the United States intervened and risked lots and lots of lives compared to what it may have been complicit in or what it may have been, lives it may have costed on the other side of that. I think, again, the balance there is clearly on the side of good in a way that you can't apply to the Taliban or Hamas. I would much rather have I would take the establishment.
What's hilarious is American defenders have to go to World War II as, like, well, we did good because of World War II. And then they leave out the whole part from 1945 all the way to 2021. Your example of what America did good is World War II, which she already admitted the Soviet Union did more. Okay, the Soviet Union, if World War II justifies American atrocities, the Soviet Union did fucking more. So they get to do more atrocities? That's the logic. The goalposts are in Andromeda now. We can do intergalactic travel now. Only about 50 wars and combat engagements happened that we know of.
Government of the United States over the governing forces and the establishment of the Taliban any day. I'm glad we're in the American...
I wish, does Ryan talk about how we funded and supported and created the Taliban? Like, please tell me he gets into, like, we kind of helped create the Taliban.
Empire, not the Taliban Empire.
Wait till you hear who funded the Taliban at the very beginning.
Well, there is that. That's not a bad point, Ryan. Ryan says he thinks the Congresswoman was giving an overly generous view of U.S. history. Here's his tweet. This is basically what we just discussed.
Yeah, and I mean, this is maybe like so. It's not that right exactly. So my point there is that if you actually tallied up the body count and if you said all lives matter, that the U.S. death count is orders of magnitude higher than the other three countries that she lumped them with. So in that sense, I would say it's unfair to those other countries.
Which is exactly what we just worked through in terms of tallying things up.
All right, Emily. Tomorrow on Rising, David Sirota is here, and Matt Stoller explains why it's time to break up the Ivy League. Team Rising will also be in the house.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Oh, fucking Christ. Now, chat, he mentioned rat lines. And those were important, but do you guys know who the United States of America, do you guys know what NATO is? Who here knows what NATO is? You all know what NATO is, right? Check the comments. I'm curious how viewers feel. One of these people is educated, the other is hopelessly brainwashed. The lady has no idea what she's talking about. On the other side, Ryan is keeping it about facts only. It's like a kid arguing with their parent. Ryan told her it's bedtime. It's wild to see someone with an education debate someone with vague talking points. The way he said, all right, Emily, at the end was as if he had enough of talking to a 7-year-old who doesn't want to go to bed. We do politics here every morning starting at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. You can watch us here on Twitch. We're the morning guy. The morning politics guy. Politics Frogs in every single day. Same time, 10 a.m. Day in, day out. And we carry you through your morning and early afternoon politics needs. And if you need more, Mike from PA, we have a YouTube channel. We talked about Suburbs, the My Pillow guy, Ted Cruz. We talked about DSA. Amazing. Making fun of Tim Pool. Amazing. Look at all of these amazing videos. Get in there, watch them. We have me on Twitter. You got to follow me on Twitter, chat. I'm at 20,614 subs. That means I got like 40 followers on Twitter in the last day. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. Go follow us on Twitter. And of course, join the Discord, where we have an incredible community of left-wing streamers. We have left-wing community. We talk about the stream. We talk about politics. There's gaming content. It's a really awesome, supportive place. Direct action, mutual aid. And you can just let off some steam. And also, you can help produce the show. One of the things I do is I look at the links that are put into the news content suggestions chat room on the Discord. Join the Discord, come hang out, and maybe what you want me to talk about will be part of the next show.